Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the IRONBROS podcast. We're on episode number 16, and we have quite an exciting episode for you guys. Kyle came right off the airport and came right here for this one, man. How was Nationals, pal?
Good. Nationals was great, man. It was good. Extremely good. Better than I thought it would be, for sure. I had high hopes, but everything turned out even better, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that don't know, I had one athlete in the show.
There's only one?
Yeah, I just had one this year in the show. His name was Anton, and he made quite the entrance, I guess, into his first national show, winning his Class B in the men's classic physique division, and then he actually won the overall, becoming not only the youngest IFBB classic pro in history, but winning the whole show. Definitely one of the top athletes of the weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Nationals is, I guess, technically the biggest show, right? Nationals you could possibly do, they say.
Yeah.
So having 19-year-old Anton win that show is amazing, man. I've known Anton for a little bit now, but can you get into the weekend itself?
Yeah, so, I got there. I think Anton drove, because it was in Texas for the first time this year. Nationals is in Texas. Typically it's in Orlando. So him living and residing in Texas right now, he had about a 4-hour drive. So he went there on Thursday. I flew in on Thursday evening. So upon meeting, obviously go through the checks and balances that we normally go through as a coach and client, making sure everything's okay. He had checked in. He was obviously already under the weight cap, so it wasn't like it was strenuous for him by any means. And then as far as the weekend, Nationals it's a one-day show for the guys. The girls go on Friday, guys go on Saturday. So prejudging starts with men's bodybuilding and then goes into classic, followed by men's physique. And then it's the reverse order for the night show. And I guess in terms of going through it, I guess you have questions you want me to start with? Like, how do you want to kind of go
Yeah, I'm going to ask you all the questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, when you got there Thursday, you met up with Anton, right? What was the first thing you did? You guys checked in? Did you guys stay at the same Airbnb?
Yeah, we stayed at the same Airbnb, so I could pretty much just watch him and monitor him at all times, And we literally went from Thursday.
What was the diet on Thursday?
Till Saturday. We went every meal. We just did pictures after every meal.
Oh, shit.
Weight.
Wow.
And I think I missed one set of pictures, so I was at the gym. But yeah, other than that, man. So as far as on Thursday, so this was his 5th show of the year.
Yeah,
right.
He did a regional Texas show, right?
He did a regional, then he did summer shredding
to qualify,
then
championship.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, this is his 5th show ever. His 4th show of the year, 5th show ever.
5th show ever, yeah.
Yep. So on Thursday, generally, as I always try to tell people, what I try to do with my athletes, if they're ready 2 or 3 weeks out, we can kind of almost do like a mock peak. Not necessarily manipulating water and salt, but kind of know the look we're going for. So by that point, pretty much I'd look at Anton, I'd know what he weighed, almost maybe like a 10th off, but I was pretty on point with where I expected him to be. And we were 5 pounds heavier for this show compared to the last show.
Damn.
The goal was to bring a little bit more fullness, in dieting him down for the first show. He was extremely lean, but I noticed, if I was being particular, we lost a little bit of size in his legs. So the goal were the 5-6 weeks. We had removed cardio for a bit of time and really increase food on those leg days and just to change the style of training a bit, just to try to bring back as much fullness as we could in the legs. And then when we had to pull back and start to diet again, we were just doing our best to just keep everything there. So we didn't do the Stairmaster or anything, as opposed to in the beginning of prep, we were crushing the stairs and things like that.
So did he do treadmill?
Yeah.
When you said like treadmill, different training, would you tell him specific leg day to do?
Yeah, so we just gave him very specific. So we changed the cardio, right? Because that is only going to beat down and impair recovery. But then as far as the training, typically we have top sets and then back off or squeeze sets, whatever you want to refer to them as. And a lot of intensifiers. Anton trains pretty well, and he's a kid, so he's rambunctious, wants to always train hard and intense. But at this point in time, we can only recover so much, right? So food isn't through the roof to where you can really recover. So if you're creating all that damage, that's just impairing everything thereafter. So what we did training-wise, stopping short of failure, just more volume, and really think of like a pump-style workout, pretty much for every exercise. So a lot of leg extensions, really squeezing and focusing on detail work, as opposed to trying to break PRs on the hack squat or pendulum, whatever machine and what you're using, you know?
Just brought his legs. Like,
And it definitely, there's definitely, if you compare his legs from the first show to that show, we definitely got what we wanted. We achieved what we wanted. So I was happy to see that in the 5 weeks in between. We were 5 pounds heavier and conditioning was right where it needed to be. So that's what I thought would be good enough for him to stack up with the top guys. And long and behold, it was good enough to win the entire show.
All right. So did you go over the diet for Thursday? When did he start like carbing up?
So I started giving him, so we take his base diet and we've done a good job over the last 5 weeks. He's really dialed in terms of he doesn't miss anything, right? So we were able to kind of have food pretty high. So his base diet going to this final week was much higher than in the past. I didn't have to deplete him as much. And then on Wednesday, so we kind of ran into a hiccup about 2 weeks out, never really said anything, or it was a week out rather, where the food choices we were using, I usually like to incorporate sushi if I can, right? I think it's a calorically dense food. Usually does people pretty well, to say the least.
You get sick?
And he got sick.
Really?
Right?
I saw him post the photo too a week out
He
with his
woke up
girlfriend.
after his higher day. So generally we're always doing back-to-back high days. For him, generally, I will keep, let's just say his base diet, I think specifically it was 250 grams of carbs that final week. Fats like 55, 60 grams. What I did on that first day is I would double the fats, basically, put them at 90 to 95. Carbohydrates maybe 50 to 75 higher. And then that second day, fats would be maybe 10 or 15 grams higher than the base diet, and then double, right? And that was bringing a very good look. On that particular, when we were a week out, I really wanted to push to see like what he would look like spilled almost. But it wasn't anything substantial like 900,000 grams of carbs or something that I think would induce something, being that I've done the same thing for weeks on end with him. But yeah, he had some kind of reaction to the sushi he ate. I don't know if it was bad sushi, what it was, but basically he had woken up on Sunday morning of the week prior at an all-time high in weight. Like we haven't seen that number on the scale in quite some time, right?
What was the jump in a day?
So he woke up, the lowest we got him this prep was peak week. We got him to 191. And this particular prep, again, they're 5 pounds heavier than he was previously. But on that Saturday prior, he got up, so he was like 199.7 in the morning. So I knew there was an issue.
He gained 9 pounds or 8 pounds.
Yeah, he was retaining a lot. So that's when I knew. I was like, okay, we need to kind of adjust things because it's not going to be perhaps as easy. And maybe it was just a sick thing, but at the same time, you have to consider the athlete, right? The last thing he wants to see going into the biggest show of the year is an issue digestively that now impairs that final look of how he's presenting himself on stage.
Yeah.
So rather than even try to go back to that sushi route, the route we've been doing, which was safe and produced results and obviously a few wins prior, I thought it would be best to kind of just abandon ship. We went with very basic foods. So his carb sources, when he went to carb up, were very simple. It was oats. We had some strawberries. Doesn't do very well with blueberries. Then we had a little bit of pineapple, sweet potatoes, jasmine rice, and that was literally all we used. It was very clean. There was no contrary to the prior peaks with him where I was using burgers, sushi, muffins, tons of stuff. It was the cleanest going into the show.
I want to stop you real quick. That caught my attention. Why you said he doesn't do well with blueberries? What was the?
Oh, it just bothers the stomach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it throws him off in terms of his bowel movements and frequency of the bowel movements. They are just not the same. Right, so he's noticed that it kind of upsets his stomach a little bit, so we just abandoned them. And, that was feedback that, again, sometimes when people give me feedback, especially a younger person just getting into it, I almost kind of force the issue sometimes. Like, do you really think that's bothering you? Like, let's do it again. And then we'll remove it for 2 days. I'll put it back just to make sure, like, all right, cool. Like, I agree with what you're saying. We're going to pull it, right? So we did that, went to strawberries. And he was just really prepared. So he had all the items I mentioned. I gave him a list. You know how I usually try to do things for peak week, make it least stressful as possible on the athlete. But, yeah, so that's how Thursday looked. So when I saw him, we were very in tune with water intake, sodium. We cut down a little bit this entire week as opposed to prior peaks. And that was just more so the look we were having. He was just super consistent, for the last 7 days going into that peak week. And we just tried to learn from the week prior. Like I said, when we had used that sushi, things went downhill, and I just didn't think it would be appropriate to introduce any new foods to his stomach for whatever reason. So if there was residue left over from perhaps the week prior, and maybe his gut bacteria was off, I wasn't going to go and throw in Chick-fil-A or anything like that unless there was an emergency situation and there was an issue,
Gotcha. So was Thursday also the last workout you guys did? 'Cause I watched his YouTube video.
So on Thursday he traveled in a car, and I just didn't think, again, coming from, I've competed a couple times, right? I've obviously prepped enough people. traveling, whether you're on a plane or in a car, sitting and confined to a space, sometimes it's not the best. Coupled with the fact I didn't want to, he blows through food at this point. His metabolism is ripping, right? So if I give him a lot of food and then he goes and trains, it's going to blow right through it. So I said, hey, let's do something a little different this week, right? On this high day, we're going to give you a lot of carbs. You're in the car. Just keep everything consistent with your water intake, but we're not going to train that day. We're going to rest. And he was all for it. He said, that works for me. It's like less stressful. I don't have to plan on getting to the gym at a certain time, rushing to pack my meals. So that's what we did. We took off Thursday, and then Friday morning, we went into the gym, did a quick pump workout just to facilitate and get things moving around, blood flow. And he always looks, he's one of those guys that he'll wake up in the morning, he looks obviously phenomenal, but he'll move around with just drinking a little bit of fluids and posing, and he starts to really sharpen up. It looks a lot different when so you always want, like I always tell people on show day morning, right? You always want a slight film on you a little bit. That way when you go to pose and pump, it's sucked into the muscle. The water sucked into the muscle, and you have that saran wrap type look when it comes to presenting yourself and posing. So that's what Friday looked like. And then as far as Friday, it was similar to his first couple meals. So he'd woke up at, I should have grabbed the exact numbers, but I had, as I think I've explained in maybe prior episodes or just in our conversation, when someone is where I want them to be, I start to say, okay, what is their flattest weight? What is their like almost spilled weight?
Yeah.
What looks better, right? Maybe they look better a day after the refeed. Maybe it's 2 days after. Maybe, hell, it's got to be the night before to make them look the way they need to look. So I knew, hey, 191 we had reached on Tuesday, and he was kind of flat, as flat as he's going to get almost. And then I knew the week prior, 199, it didn't look so hot, right? He looked full as a house, but under the stage lights, it was definitely not going to be what we wanted. So in the week prior, generally 194, 195 is the highest we were seeing. So I said, okay, we can be a 192, 193 in the morning. That's where we need to be. So before he went to bed, I knew if he woke up over 194, 195 in the morning, those first couple meals on Friday, I was going to have to keep pretty low. Same thing on Saturday morning. But he woke up right where we needed, 192, 193, right? So it's just a matter of maintaining that weight. And we kept water in, right? So there's no, contrary to a lot of people, there's no diuretic usage, right, at all. When someone's in really good shape and we're just keeping everything constant, you don't really need it. Now, some people do hold a lot of water. They retain a lot of water, and the more carbohydrates they have, the more you need to pull, essentially, if aldosterone rises. But ultimately, we didn't need to use anything, right, which is cool. And he's, again, from data in the past with him, we had pulled water significantly for the one show where we really controlled it to smaller amounts. And I just didn't like the way his body was responding, the way it was looking. So I noticed with him, almost 10 to 16 ounces between meals is like what he definitely needs. And then, as far as the only thing we used was a shot of vodka, right? So I gave Anton a shot of vodka, right?
Wow, look at that. Underage drinking.
Underage drinking at its finest. But that eased his nerves, works as a natural diuretic, and woke up Saturday morning pristine, right where I wanted him. It was just like, hey, now we just have to wait 5-6 hours to get to stage. Yeah. So that was Friday. And like I said, the first couple meals on Friday, generally when I have someone where I want them to be, I always go back and look at the base diet, off-day diets, how it looks, right? And I just mimic that. I don't like start to do some fancy things or add new foods in. I think that's where people kind of go wrong, trying to achieve this fullness and it's just a lack of muscle maybe, or achieve this dryness and it's just a lack of conditioning.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Wow. So I watched his YouTube video actually last night because he posted a show day video, and he had his tan on Friday. Do you guys train in the morning? So I never gotten a tan like in the morning on Friday.
So
he
at night. Did pro-tan
himself?
Yeah, DIY, do it yourself.
I've never done that before. And it looked good on him or no? Because I remember you guys said he had issues with the tan.
Yeah. Well, there's another. So part of the pro-tan, there's different formulas, I guess, different bottles. There's a base, there's like a overcoat, and then there's like a super dark spray or whatever. He didn't have all of them, right? He only had what he used. And being that the lighting's always different at shows, I didn't realize the first 2 shows, 3 shows, I guess, his tan was just a little lighter. So
Like the other shows or this one?
In general, they were always that consistency. Yeah. So when I saw him in person, obviously tan, I thought it was a little light, but I figured it wasn't like substantially too light, but it was lighter than my liking. But however, when you put tan on or you're getting sprayed before a show, you never want to do it like an hour before stage because you're going to have it's got to set in and dry, right? Otherwise, you're going to look a little wet and watery. So for those people, I always tell on like a Friday or something, or whenever they're getting a tan, if you go and look in the mirror thereafter, you're always going to feel like, oh, I'm flat or something's wrong. And it's because the tan, right? The tan will take time. Just like when you finish getting tanned, you're not as dark as you're going to be. Give it 5-6 hours, and all of a sudden you look a lot different in skin color. So,
all right, so we did a DIY.
Yeah, we did the DIY. I think you put 1 or 2 coats on, the base coats, on Friday morning. Thursday night, I think he did 1. Friday morning, right after the tan, he did another 2. And then he put the overcoat on Saturday morning.
It's a lot of fucking tan.
Yeah, it's a lot of tan. So shout out to his girlfriend, Soph, who was the one that was doing it all. You know, all I kind of just say is, hey, do these areas. Sure, they find it annoying, but very particular because little things like that matter for that caliber of a show, you know? So
I'm going to jump the gun a little bit because it's kind of evolved with tan.
Yeah.
I watched the show day video, and his glaze looked really well. And I've always noticed, like, I feel like whenever I step on stage and the people behind the stage do my glaze, they just do it in certain areas, and they don't really get all the areas I would like. So did you glaze him, or did you get just
no? So national shows, they typically for national shows they do everything. They don't let you look messed up. Whereas if you're backstage at a regional show, you know, you're kind of like it's an assembly line. You funnel through. They give you a quick little spray, and if you're the type of person that absorbs it quickly, it's going to be dry. And if you're the type of person that doesn't need it in certain areas, it's going to look bad. But they do a really good job. The expediters back
really
there,
good.
like the way that show was ran in general was pretty excellent. You know, compared to other shows I've been to. It was just very organized backstage. It wasn't like too chaotic. You know how it could be backstage. But yeah, it was run really smoothly, and they applied the tanning and the glaze. And then by the night show, we just got him an extra coat because I knew at that point, like, hey, you're going to be in the overall. When we had left stage after prejudging, obviously we knew he was the top 2 because he never moved, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't satisfied. You know, I said, hey, like, I want to win the overall. Like that's where we're at now. We already got the pro card. And it's, you know, again, it's not all said and done, so who knows? But I was extremely confident once we had left that. Once I saw prejudging, I'm like, all right, this is definitely yours. Now it's a matter of let me pay attention to the other classes a little bit because I don't know who's here. You know, but we need to just get better, and we definitely need to fix the tan because the last thing I ever want to hear is something that I kind of have control over.
He lost
in terms of like tanning. We lost because of that.
Sucks. That would have sucked. All right. So what did he do? Or what did you give him? I guess like pre-stage as like the pump food or the high carb
so
food?
Another thing we were using is dry carbs, right? So we use a little bit of rice cakes, a little bit of cereal, like Rice Krispie cereal, which is rice derived. So again, easy on his stomach. So I always am conscious of when I'm giving somebody, especially a classic competitor, someone that's pulling vacuums and needs their waist really tight, I don't want to give them something that's going to make them feel distended because again, mentally, I think you know how it is. If you're
distended,
unable to kind of keep your stomach in and you feel like your waist is out of control, that messes with you, and you're no longer able to pose the same way, right? So we just wanted to give them things that were easy digesting, and no meal we really went over was over 100 grams of carbs ever, right? We just kept it very consistent, adding as we go, adjusting the water and stuff like that. But then pre-stage, that's when I use a more sugary base. I introduced sugar, like a muffin and things like that, something calorically dense, and it was just about timing it, right? So I know generally for him, 45 to 70 minutes in that window, like he feels ideal for sure. So it's just a matter of timing it. And like I said, the show was run really smoothly, so it was like super easy to time it. I was there watching it. So yeah, there was no timing issue where sometimes at regionals, it goes so fast and before you know it, you're on stage. So I err with caution when I go to use something because if you give somebody something calorically dense like that, or you're eating a ton of food, in 20 minutes, it's not going to hit you. And what you're going to notice, you're going to start sweating your ass off on stage because now it's hitting you and like you're not digesting, you know, or you didn't digest it previously.
Gotcha. All right, man. So let me hear about, I guess, the stage time. What was it like when witnessing the package he brought on stage when you're on the stands?
I was impressed with myself. No. So I saw him come out. And what I expected, right? So I commend him on it because even myself has done a national show. You've done national shows, and a lot of people out there listening probably that have done shows. You get a little stage fright. You get nervous, right? And I wouldn't say he wasn't as calm as a cucumber, whatever the saying is, but he had a certain demeanor to him to where he was confident and he was having fun. And I think seeing that, you know, when someone uses the bathroom in the morning and has a bowel movement, I always think that's exceptional on show day. There's no stress involved. Whereas when you're stressed and kind of frantic, sometimes everything slows down, right? And you don't have bowel movement, and then you start worrying and stuff like that. But he kept his composure really well. And, you know, it definitely helped. He mentioned, I think in his video as well, me being there, it was very easy for him to kind of, didn't have to send pictures, worry about getting service. It was just literally, hey, it's time to pose. It was just like that simple. But, yeah, so he came out. So as far as those that don't know how national shows work, different from regionals, you come out and you have you come out as a group first as comparisons. So if there's 50 people in his class. So nationals had a ton of competitors, but so specifically his class, I think it was 50 in his class, or 45, 50 in class A. You come out in groups of 8 or 9, right? So there's 4 or 5 groups. And you just go through a few mandatories, and then you go off stage, come back individually. You typically have 60 seconds. For nationals, they only gave them 45 seconds at most. It was a little faster than that probably, to where you hit 6 or 7 poses, get off stage, and then everyone comes back out, and then they have their call-outs to where you want to be in that prestigious first call-out. So when he first came out as a group, he pretty much nailed everything. He was to the far right when he walked out.
Yep.
And even the first pose he hit, you know, I was pretty close to him, so he could hear me. I'm sure everyone could hear me in terms of just certain cues of where I saw mishaps when we were just kind of running through things. So I kind of knew what to look for, but he did his job in practicing, right? He was posing every day for months at this point.
Yeah.
But especially the last 3 weeks, it was almost annoying how much I would ask him to pose and how much I knew he was posing. And then on stage, he nailed everything. And then where he excels the best, his detail in level of conditioning is far greater than many achieve ever, yet alone his age. So next to people that were in decent shape, of everyone in his class, I'd say there was about 2 other people that were like near his conditioning. So when he hit certain poses, your eye just gravitates toward him just because of how lean he was and the detail he has. So yeah, there was no question for that. And then he got the first call out. As far as his composure, I think I was probably more nervous than he was, just because I really, you know, we put a lot into it, and then I always want to see someone do well, right? And not that I would have been disappointed had he not performed extremely well, but it would have stung a little bit, you know, because I really wanted him to do well. So ultimately, obviously, he was in the first call out. Took him about 2 seconds to move to center stage, and he did a pretty good job posing, right? There are small critiques we can make in terms of just his breathing and stuff like that. But for someone that's 19, I mean, you forget that for a second because now you're competing. It doesn't matter what age you are. It's fair game up there, right?
Yeah.
So he did his thing there. And then, like I said, after prejudging, it was just a matter of, okay, now we want more, right? The pro card is not good enough. We want something else. And that was the approach that we took and the demeanor we had moving forward. So yeah,
it's pretty awesome, man. I mean, I'll say it for everyone that's listening. They're probably all thinking, what a great coach you are with all the words you had to say about that. So I'll say it for them.
I appreciate
what
that.
a good coach you are.
And then the overall at night, you know, no disrespect to anyone else that was there, but I don't think it was a comparison, really. Once I saw how he looked, again, you go to the backside, it's just not comparable. You know, that his level of conditioning and fullness.
Yeah, no,
it's hard for people to beat in his structure. There's another good guy that was decent for sure.
I know you're talking about. He had size on him.
Yeah,
right?
he had size, and that's where at first, you know, when you're backstage, you see somebody, you're like, oh man, like
shit,
he looks better than me. But when you go under those stage lights,
no, there's everything.
It's an illusion sometimes, right? So yeah, there are guys that were more muscles than Anton, but his structure and conditioning really helped him. So so he won, man. So it was surreal, I guess you could say.
Pretty awesome. So what was it? I mean, I'm trying to think, like, what's your best, I guess, your best win in terms of status, in terms of a biggest show, like, victory?
No, I guess it would be that one, essentially.
Those things, I don't think you have a pro show win, right?
I always think any win, whether it's at a regional, wherever it is, if a win to me is when someone shows up better than they were and they do well, not necessarily the placing, because you don't control who shows. You have a kid like Anton shows up. Does that mean the guy that was in second wasn't good? No, it just means that you had a freak show up, and
for sure,
there's nothing you can do about that. But as far as on paper, I'd say that was a big win.
Cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
The future is
bright,
very bright. Got a lot of traction, and that's where interesting enough, took all of 10 minutes for people to say, okay, so like, what's next?
Yeah.
And the reality is, as cool as it would be to do some prestigious pro debut show and hit the ground running, the reality is I need to just be mindful of what's going on, right? He's 19. I'm not going to burn him out. It's very easy and would help my rep. Hey, let's just go do a show. Let's just jump into something. Let's get an invite somewhere. Why? Right? I don't want to burn him out. He's got a huge future. So we're going to take the time that's needed, whether that's 6 months, whether that's a year, whether that's 18 months, we haven't lost, right? So when I go to prep him moving forward, we're prepping to win. I don't care how tough the show is, if it's a tier 1 show, tier 4 show, whatever it is, we're going to win. And that's what I think at that level, especially, you don't prep to lose. If you're a pro, you shouldn't compete if you don't think you can compete with the top of the top, right? So we'll take as long as we need. Definitely make sure that we're healthy mentally and physically. His body has been under a lot. Anyone that's done 2 shows knows it's a lot. But the reality is he's been dieting for a significant period of time. So, and having conversations with him, it's just like, hey, let's rewind a little bit, pause where we are, kind of be present, like soak in this moment, because you now set a record to be the youngest pro in the classic division. I don't think anyone will touch that for a long time, because I think that's extremely challenging, and the level of competition only gets greater, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to look great, but then to nail your peak and not to be nervous, those variables are sometimes out of my control even, right? But everything worked really well, so I'm grateful for that. But moving forward, it's just a matter of worrying about him as a person. I don't want him to be burnt out. I know he's top 5 level. Like, he can be extremely good. It's just going to take a little bit of time and putting on muscle in the right places, and then bringing that stellar conditioning. And to me, like, I want a little bit more, right? It was great, probably better than most people ever get, but there's more. There's more to him.
Sick, man. It's awesome. All that shit's cool. You know?
So it was cool, man. It was a great experience, and very proud of everything that he was able to accomplish. And now I'm just setting the sights on the next chapter for him, because he's a professional now. So it's like almost all the work that we've done so far gets undone. It's a new starting ground, right?
No, for sure.
But yeah, man.
What'd you guys do after the show? Did you guys go out to eat together? I think it's a typical question.
After the show?
Cliche.
Yeah, of course we ate. Yeah. So we went to Italian place, actually. Got some food there. Anton had cookies. I didn't have any.
Surprising.
Yeah, super surprising. And we just kind of hung out, man. Kicked it back on the Airbnb. My flight in the morning was 6 a.m. So.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to be at the airport at 4:30. So that was really it, man. A quick trip, but like I said, it was just, I had a mission. We accomplished it. And then it's just back to business now. We have the holidays coming up here, podcasts to film, other people starting prep soon. A lot of exciting shit going on.
Yeah.
So
A lot of exciting stuff, man.
yeah, man.
Do you want to end it here, or do you want to continue the podcast?
No, we could continue. I was just checking the time. Why?
Oh, okay. I saw you looking at the time. And I was looking at the time too. I was trying to think what you wanted to do with this.
Speaking for.
You spoke for about 30 minutes.
Winded. 29 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. What else do you want to get into?
I guess, what did you think of the stream?
What did I think of the stream?
Yeah. You were watching live. What did you think?
was.
I know you had texted me, I think. You said, oh, like, what do you think, or how do you think he did?
Yeah. So to preface, I guess my Saturday, I was invited to go to like Allie's family's things. I was like, I gotta watch a bodybuilding show. I needed to watch this, you know?
Yeah.
The stream, I mean, it was a typical bodybuilding stream. It's pricey. It's pricey. It was cool though. I remember like, exactly how you said it, right? He stepped on stage. I started my camera recordings. I was excited.
Yeah.
It was just unfortunate when that first time you get out on stage, you don't control anything of it, and he's all the way to the right. Yeah. It's just like a sucky spot to be, you know? But, I mean, obviously, everything he had going for him showed. I mean, he did really well. I like the song he chose. He chose the song The Kill to pose to, and I'm a big rock guy, so that was awesome. And I kind of had a feeling that was his song. I didn't see his routine in his other shows. I didn't know what song he used. He never posted it. I didn't see any posing footage. But I posted a thing on my Instagram story maybe like a month ago at this point of the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
There's like a YouTube channel called Drumeo, I believe. And what they do is they take really good drummers and they play a song, a track without the drums. So all you will hear is the singing, maybe guitar or whatever other instruments. And this drummer has to then make the drum track for this song.
Right.
So, I forget his name, but the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers absolutely just killed it. It almost sounded spot on, if not better. And I posted on my story, and Anton liked it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, he likes that song, too. That's pretty dope. And I just had some feeling that he was going to post that song, and he did. So I was like, oh, shit. I was like, that's sick. And I sent it to my friend Frank, and I was like, dude, check this out. No, but it was awesome to watch. I revolved my day around it, you know?
Yeah.
It's motivating in itself to watch that as I prepare for a national show soon, as well as just seeing, Anton telling me I inspired him when he was younger. To see him now kill it, it's inspiring in itself to me now. So super, super cool feeling.
Did you see the overall comparison and stuff?
Yeah, I watched that too.
Did you think
it was close?
Were you worried? What did you think?
No.
I
said
see
it.
the stream, so.
I could probably pull up my video of the overall, and like within like probably 30 seconds, I said, oh, he's got it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to compare. When I was looking at the line, there was 4 guys, right? A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
A had great shape, but he was just, I remember Anton just like beat him in size.
Yeah.
You know, size and conditioning. Anton, obviously, if people saw the photos, he had amazing glutes. His glutes they had muscle, they were shredded. And then the next guy in the C class, right? That was the guy that was probably second in the overall, you would say. He had the size to him, and that was the only worry. I was looking at him. And then they went to the back, and I was looking at all the conditioning all throughout. And when you go to the glutes, right, no one had glute striations. Not one.
No, the
besides
guy, so that was Shane Hughley's guy.
Okay.
Shane gets people always in good shape, so
Yeah.
when I noticed, I saw Shane backstage, I didn't even know he had a guy, honestly. I don't pay attention to that stuff. And then I saw him, and he's like, oh, I think it's going to be my guy and your guy in the overall. And I didn't know who it was at that point, but I knew it was D, so I was just like, damn, man, like, this guy's going to be in shape, he's going to be big.
Yeah.
But, again, Anton, I know, is like, I have like a little puzzle piece there. He's like, he fits the script of what classic is. It's hard to beat him. If he wasn't in shape, I'd say, all right, he could get beat, but he was in shape. And then the guy, Joe Shui, I remember his Instagram.
I'm gonna bring it up. When we were talking about the show a week before the show, we were going over like some competitors there, and you brought him up to me, and I was like, damn, I was like, he's impressive, really.
Yeah, and
cool.
I said, I was like, this guy's gonna win. I'm glad he's not.
How old is he? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't even want to guess. I'm gonna say mid-20s. I don't really know his age, to be honest.
He looks phenomenal. He definitely
super nice guy, down to earth, and he's got some experience under his belt. Just missing his pro card back at USA's a few months back. So when I saw him, I don't know if it was at Bev's or wherever he had posted a video, their most recent video. But I said to you, this guy's definitely gonna. He's in contention for sure. I don't see him losing. Just no matter what class he's in. So yeah, it was no surprise to see him in the overall. And then Anton did his thing. So it was cool to see.
Now I saw some already some social media backlash. There's awesome. There was a video I saw the other day saying people are praising, Anton, 19-year-old classic physique pro. If you're praising him, you're also praising steroid use at a young age.
Right.
So how do you feel about that?
I think people need to understand what's going on, right? No one knows the truth, and it's easy to make assumptions, and I think that's what people do in our contemporary era, right? Similar to people nowadays don't like to suffer. They always want to find out the easy route, right? And I don't think an easy life is not what you should seek, right? Anything worthwhile comes with trials and tribulations, and it's a struggle typically, right? So when it comes to this stuff we're seeing on social media or whatnot, people want to think that he's taking everything under the sun, and the sad truth, he's not.
No.
And that's scary for those that want to think that, because they want to justify like, oh, he's only this good because of X, Y, and Z. No, the reality is you will never be as good as him no matter what you take, and I promise.
It's so funny,
Right?
too,
So,
is when I saw that on social media too, right? But then I'll also see on social media of kids actively promoting and showing themselves, putting a needle into them on Instagram or YouTube.
that's crazy.
And right, so they're on stuff too. So it's like, who's probably doing it the healthiest route possible? Someone in control and monitoring all factors, or like these Most likely
Like,
people that aren't even paying
time
attention.
will tell longevity with bodybuilders, right? You often see people come and go, and as I always tell people, when you compete in the sport or hobby, whatever you prefer to call it, of bodybuilding, you obviously have a passion if you want to put yourself through that. You don't lose that passion and love for it in 2 years. So generally those guys that come into the industry, or even girls, and then they make waves and all of a sudden they're gone, it's usually health related, where they either lose their mind or physically, hey, they're not healthy and they need to stop. And that's what is usually the case. So again, coming full circle, a lot of people want to think certain things are being used, and all I can say is time will tell. When he keeps progressing, because there's different levels to this, then what are they going to say? Oh, he's just taking more and more. No, the reality is he is obviously a little blessed genetically, got a great work ethic, got a great coach. He's just going to
pat yourself on the back.
Continue to do really well. So best of luck. And I think the guys that are a little older than him should be worried because he's coming a lot faster than they think.
Damn.
And then the guys that he just lapped and surpassed on stage, they got to go back to the drawing board and just realize, like, hey, it doesn't mean you're not good. There's a lot of good competitors there. But someone's got to lose, right? It's a show. And that's just the nature of the beast. So you're competing in something. There's not all winners. There's no participation trophies. It's either you won or you lost. And that's where we're at.
Yeah. Shit, I don't even know what to say anymore, bro.
Yeah.
Shit's crazy, man.
So yeah, I mean that's the social media frenzy now. People are, trying to say he didn't deserve to win or whatnot. And at the end of the day, anyone that was there, it like I said, it just the results speak for themselves. People that were there know damn well he's the best athlete. Yep. And that's all there is to really say about it. And coupled with that, like I said, where I'm happy to see is he's a humble kid. He's not conceited by any means. He takes the time to talk to people. Super excited. That raw, enthusiasm you would expect from someone that's younger, like a kid on Christmas. Like that's Anton in a nutshell. And he's got a really good story. But I'll leave that to him to tell maybe in a few weeks if he's here or something like that. Yeah. But I think it all makes sense looking back. You think back a year ago. For those people that don't know, you can simply look it up. Right, there was a lot of scandals, or I guess you could say, or a lot of rumors going around with the Adobe, the Photoshop, and all these things that definitely left some PTSD when it comes to his thought process and trauma that he'll navigate through in the future. But a lot of people were bad mouthing him, and now all of a sudden, those same people are now being friendly because they see like, oh shit, like this kid took all this backlash and didn't
prove
leave.
Himself.
He really proved himself, and he did more than prove himself. He just set a serious. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't even know. Level, I don't know. I know what you mean, though.
He stamped his name in the history books, for the lack of better words or a motto here. And I love seeing that, right? I've seen it before with people to where they get a lot of negativity on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be, the platform. And sometimes it derails them, and they go and hide and disappear. And then other times they take it and it fuels them. But you forgive, but you don't forget when it comes to certain comments that are made. And he really took it and channeled that energy into something positive, and you see where it came. So again, I almost enjoy seeing the negativity because he's just going to take it and it's going to transcend into another level now.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah. So, and switching gears, I think that's enough talk about nationals, right? I don't know if you have any other questions about Anton, anything like that.
No, I mean I know him a lot,
Yeah.
good amount. So I'm super proud of the kid. Happy for him.
For sure. So he'll be here in a few weeks.
Maybe be a guest in the podcast.
He'll be a guest on the podcast. We'll get some training in. I'll embarrass him a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
You'll embarrass him
training wise. See if he can keep up.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure he is very energetic one. He is young guns, but yeah. So switching gears now with you, how was your weekend? So I know you were a fan of the sport and watching the national show, but what's going on with your lifting? Tell the viewers. I guess you have some interesting news and important news coming up.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we'll start with, you asked my weekend.
Sure. Start with the weekend.
I got a cat. I got another fucking cat.
How many cats do you have?
3. That's insane.
You have 3 cats?
I realized it was insane, like maybe an hour after I got the cat.
You want to try for like a dog or a parrot? Or
No, absolutely not. Not a parrot. A dog in an apartment is a hell. I got a third cat.
You like cats?
Yeah, he's a little kitten. He's 10 weeks old.
What's his name?
We're not set yet. We have a couple contenders, though. So he's an orange boy.
It's been a few days since you've gotten the cat, and you don't have a name?
No. That's pretty typical, though. Because you got to find what kind of fits. Like, I call him all these different names. You got to see what sticks, you know? So he's an orange boy cat.
Interesting.
We have, right now, number one is like Mac. Mac, because it's a boy. Mac and cheese, you know?
Yeah.
There's typical names like Cheeto. Not doing Garfield. Chico, I did. He's a boy. Chico, like boy in Spanish. Colby for Colby Jack. Cheese. I think that's it. But Mac's the number one on the list right now.
When is the deadline to?
Oh, and then or Doodle. Name? Doodle because you call him Dude. Ali came up with Doodle. I came up with Chico. Yeah.
When is the deadline to expect a name?
There's no deadline. Probably within the next couple days. It just eventually me now will be like, you know what? Mac's the best name, and then it just stays. So no, it's been a little interesting having a kitten because when I had my other cats, they were older, like 4 months old. This one's so young, bro. He ain't eating. He's throwing up constantly. I'm waking up in the middle of the night to clean him. Shit.
Wow. Okay.
It's a baby. It's a baby to a lesser degree. But yeah, he's trying to.
That's exciting. Definitely another living being, organism in your household.
All right, but moving past that and getting on to the bodybuilding part of the podcast, I start prepping myself for my shows in Thursday, Friday, 3 days.
So what are your thoughts? You're going into a prep. Share with people, I guess, the good, the bad. What does that look like?
I mean, I don't see there's nothing bad I can think of at the moment.
There's a ton of bad things I could think of.
Well, then listen to me. Or actually don't, because I don't want to hear them.
Okay, go on.
A lot of good. Obviously, this past weekend was super motivating for myself, right? Super proud of Anton, but it also fires me to be like, fuck, I want to do the same thing. I want to win an overall at a national show.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he would be a competitor to me in the future, you know? So I want to fuel myself as well to be a contender. Prep starts soon. I think I'm at a good starting point. I mean, if we go over my off season, right? I've never done one before. We actually completed a successful off season, I would say. We held mid to high 220s for a couple months, like consistently. So that was really good. Never touched a weight like that before. At the moment, like speaking, like 225, still mid 220s, which is what you wanted when we started after my surgery. We started training again. You were like, let's get you mid 220s and make it a cleaner look than where you are now. And we did that. My waist got tighter again. My abs started popping out more. I lost some of my bloat that I had to me. Training itself comes in like waves. Remember, like you see me in the gym where I'm like super like motivated, like this, going my old school way. And then sometimes it sucks. I'm in like a good wave right now, like ready to start prep. My appetite's actually increased lately, so
that's good.
And I guess it's good, even though I'm about to start dieting. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of everything I can think of how I feel. My body itself feels very well. I've been getting a lot of body work done. Trying to prepare myself for success. So I kind of have like a routine in terms of taking care of my body. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I train 2 days right now, prescribed by you. 2 days on, 1 off. And then every rest day, I like to go in my sauna. I'll stretch. I make sure I could, bend over, put my socks on. Because as I was putting my socks on this morning for this podcast, I thought back to May when we were pushing really hard. And I was like a low 220. And I was struggling to put my socks on because I was too heavy. And I was
Which is kind of crazy looking back, right?
Yeah.
It's not good.
So I'm super happy that I'm able to bend down, touch the floor, hug my ankles, and actually hold it and not be in pain.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty flexible for someone in their 220s. The one thing I guess I just want to prepare even better for in prep is fixing my sleep schedule. Mm-hmm. I go to bed a little too late right now for my liking.
Yeah.
I want to start waking up earlier just because I think I feel more productive in terms of life, If you're busy, that makes prep easy. Mm-hmm. And if you're waking up early, I just feel happy, especially in wintertime right now when the sun goes down at 5 and it's pitch black out. It's kind of depressing. So if that messes with my head or hormones a bit, you know, I just like to not deal with it and wake up earlier. So I don't know. I guess I'm very excited. I'm not nervous. Eager.
Okay.
That's everything I can think of.
No, I think so. A couple of the key takeaways that at least I hear, and hopefully other people pick up on as well, is I think it's important to assess how someone's feeling going into prep, right? Too often do I see people full-blown off-season, pushing really hard, and then all of a sudden they go into like that extreme dieting. And you could think of it in terms of people that don't even compete, or maybe they have aspirations to, but they're not competitors. They're on their bulk. They gain what's supposed to be a clean bulk. All of a sudden they gain 30 pounds in 3 months, and then they want to like extreme diet, right? They just go from one extreme to the other. So, you know, speaking about your significant other, Allie, right? Slightly different approach this final week, right? To where I encourage her an ample amount of times, and even you heard it. I think we were having a conversation. Hey, take like a lot of rest this week. Like I don't want you really in the gym. Just take as much time as you feel you need, because I just want her body rested going into prep. Yeah. As opposed to beat down, joints hurt. Because at one point you think back, like most people, regardless of age, especially as you get older, your joints and stuff start hurting you. That's the last thing you want when you're going into a prep, is your joint, your body doesn't feel right. So I'm glad that you've been staying on top of your mobility and stretching and your recovery, because that is ultimately what will dictate a lot of progress. Yeah. So the lower you can keep, you know, oxidative stress, the more in tune you are with your daily habits, waking up early, things like that. I think that will be key variables that most people don't consider until it's too late and it's not going to change anything. But if you're managing them all already, and people can kind of take that away and realize like, hey, these things do matter. Going to sleep too late, you're already noticing. I don't have to tell you, hey, fix it. You know from experience, and you also know as you're becoming more knowledgeable, hey, this actually plays a role. This is going to help promote fat loss if I'm getting ample quality sleep. So
I have another thing to say as we're talking. It kind of brought to my came to my head. I wanted to say this honestly for one of my YouTube videos when I started, I guess, my series. But being that you brought it up, I could talk about it now. Going into prep this year, this time, feels a lot different than previous times due to kind of already being in prep, if that makes sense, right? All my other preps, think about my first one, I was doing my own thing. I hit you up. Let's start a prep. We started dieting, right? Yeah. And then my second show, I was fat. I came off of a reverse, and I did the worst thing you possibly could do. I rebounded awfully, and I was like, shit, Kyle, we got to prep. Try to lose all that weight. Probably, it wasn't a bad look, but my worst look, in my opinion, on stage we had. Then in the third show, my third prep, didn't really did an off season. I was in my head because I started rebounding. Didn't want that to happen due to the trauma from the last prep. So I would yo-yo diet of like, just try different things. I would do like no carbs or keto, and then just some food here. It didn't make sense what I was doing. Then we did a prep. We did good that prep because I was lean to start with, and we had an ample amount of time, but I didn't really have size to me, you know? And this last show, once again, I didn't have an off season, but I wasn't in a bad starting point. So you had a good, I guess, I was in a good position for you to mold me into the show.
I think.
But then going into this time, you know, I've been a bodybuilder very consistent this last 20 months. So number one, that fueled progression. And it also puts me at a point now of like, you know what I'm eating, and I have been eating this without fucking up for the last months since I got back in the gym for my surgery. And now you can play around a lot and see what you want to do with me. And so when I feel like a lot of people now on social media, since they're such beginners going into, they all want to compete, right? It's a fad now.
Cool thing to do.
Cool thing to do. So when they say they're prepping, it's like, oh, I just got a diet. This prep doesn't feel like it's a diet for me because I've already been on diet. It's just getting my body into now a contest shape, and I'm still bodybuilding. I'm still doing everything. Like dieting, the word dieting doesn't even feel like it's a part of prep because it's already my life. Right. Is the best way for me to put that, if that makes sense. We're just now cosmetically going to look hard and sharp and cut and detailed and how bodybuilders should
I think you put yourself in position. You know, a lot of people always ask like, hey, how can I be a better athlete, or how can I be really good at this? And I think it takes a lot of repetition and obviously the right mindset. And oftentimes, as you noticed in the past, like most people, you're not like a unique person to where you just want to prep all of a sudden. You didn't really follow something. Most people don't, because it's a pain. There's a lot of sacrifices, and it gets boring.
Yeah.
And we live in a world now where we want shit to be exciting. We want things tomorrow. That instantaneous gratification is what people seek and really like get a dopamine rush off of. But in your case, you've now positioned yourself to what I think will be the most successful prep to date, just because you've been doing it for so long. So when you ask, hey, like, what's going to be different in prep? It's just like, hey, we've been doing the same foods. We'll cut out the free meal. Maybe a little bit more cardio, right? Certain supplementation we start to play around with, put some burners in or something like that over time. But it's not, the only difference now is, hey, that date I circled on the calendar is imminently approaching, and now I need to I need to look a certain way by that, right? So we never really were not in prep, I guess you could say, right? So sometimes terminology I've noticed has become like a fad to talk about, where people are not, there's no such thing as off season or stupid shit like that. To me, if you really want to be good at this, just like I always try to relate it back to what people do. So if they play sports, you played soccer, you didn't get good at soccer because you played for 2 months a year. You got good at soccer because you played a lot.
Yeah.
And people that are really good at sports play a lot. Gym is no different. It's like it's easier than a sport, right? This is like a prerequisite for many other sports. So you just got to be consistent, and you've been really consistent with your diet. So if more people could do that, I think they would be healthier overall, not going from one extreme to the other. And then mentally, they won't have to work as hard. Right? So prep is never going to be easy, but you sure as hell make it a lot more difficult if you're just eating whatever, and then you like go to a coach and say, hey, I'd like to do the show, and you don't give yourself enough time or something like that. We have all the time in the world. So if you're not in shape, there's a problem, right? Then I suck. Like, that's what it comes down to at this point, because we have plenty of time. We know what's going on. So yeah, I think this past year is the first year I think you were like, hey, like a true bodybuilder. Yeah. You know? But yeah, I think a lot of people, hopefully, if anybody takes anything away, is if you're looking to do a show, that work starts now. It doesn't start when you're 16 weeks out or something like that. And can you do well? Yeah.
Could do well, yeah.
But is it going to be the recipe for really transcending your life into that next level? Not at all. You're never going to be that good if you do that. And if you were decent, I can only imagine if you put some effort in.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, I can't foresee the future myself. You know, but I've been excited for this moment to come. I've been emotional about it.
I've emo about it, huh?
Emo or emotional?
Emotional, emo.
Yeah, I've been emotional.
Oh.
So, I don't know, I've cried in this gym before.
So your expectations are what, to make it clear? What are your expectations?
What do I want to do?
Yeah.
Well, speaking to existence, right?
Yep.
So what I set out for myself is I have to requalify for nationals. All right, road to pro, that's my goal. My goal now exceeds that. I also want to win an overall, not just because of Anton this weekend. That goal was established months, if not a year ago at this point. I'd like to win an overall international show. My regional show, I would like to compete in all 3 categories, and I'd like to win the overall in each. So I want to take...
Selfish, man.
You know how funny that look on that poster?
I think they would purposely not let that happen, at least if I was a judge, because it's just not fair.
It's not fair.
But, hey, life isn't fair sometimes. So, I think that's cool. You know, like I said, I just wanted to hear what your expectations are and be confident about it, because I do think you have the intangibles to do very well. Obviously, you don't control who's there, but you control your posing, you control the shape you get in, and the muscle you have now, preserving it and even making improvements to it, because you're in that position where you can grow a little bit, as opposed to in the past when you were a fat blimp and you wanted to do a show. It's a little more difficult.
Harder. Yep.
Right?
I want to explain, though, why I want to do all 3. So, I want to do bodybuilding because, number one, if I go pro, I can't do bodybuilding at a pro show.
Why not?
I can't do bodybuilding at a pro show. So, I want to just experience it. I want to be in that little thong, and I want to hit a lat spread, and I want to do bodybuilding. You know, why not? So I just want to do that. Classic physique is where I want to be in my future. And then men's physique is just for another run at, it's my last like regional show. I don't want to do men's physique anymore really in my future because I have legs. I do, you know? So it's like, why not just do all three at the regional show? And I don't want to lose. So I'm going to try to win all three.
Yeah.
You know? So that's really it. I mean, what I expect for myself besides just the awards and the placings is I want to see the most conditioned, best package I've ever brought to stage.
Yeah.
You know, and with the size I've put on, I definitely think I will be the biggest. And then I feel with the extra tissue I brought on, we'll also bring in deeper conditioning. We have ample amount of time. Yeah. I don't think conditioning will be an issue. And as well as I want to do a really good posing routine, which is something I feel like is hard for me to start when I'm farther out from a show because you don't know what you fully look like yet. You don't have the lines. You don't know what will actually look good in that pose. But I know I would sometimes be scared of a posing routine, especially in classic. The only one time I did classic, because it's actually more than a front shot and a back shot in men's physique. So I already have 2 songs in mind that I want to do, but I want to choreograph a really good posing routine, and I want to impress my parents, my close friends, and just be like, wow, like the kid cared about this, you know?
You don't want to impress me.
You count as a friend.
Oh, now I'm a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really it. That's the goal I set out for myself, is just be a better person. I want this prep to also not fix, but I also want to give my everything in this prep, but also fix some aspects of my life that I may be lacking in right now. Mm-hmm. So I really want to take like the next half a year to become a better human in a lot of aspects.
I
do all the
agree
hard
with that.
things.
Yeah. I think it's important. This is like it's become a bodybuilding podcast, to say the least, right? But I think it's important to evolve in all aspects, financially, mentally, spiritually, and physically, obviously, which is where the gym comes into play, and nutrition and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think you've grown, at least to me, I've seen a lot of growth in you as like an individual with having patience, right? For a while, you're just like anyone else, focused on the scale a little bit, and seeing certain numbers is cool. But you've realized, like, hey, I was 225 a few months ago, but I couldn't put my socks on. That's a problem, right? For those people out there that are like, I'm like 230, and you can't put your socks on, like, hey, like, what do you think it's like to your heart and your other organs and your blood pressure? Yeah. Eventually, that's a silent killer. It will come back and haunt somebody. So I don't care what age you are, if you can't do those things, that's a problem, right? You need to address it for sure. And now, again, you're the same weight you were a few months back, but it's a much more presentable. You're healthier, and no surprise, now you're in a better starting point. You know, so you won't see as much of a drop in terms of weight when you start dieting and coming down. So you solidified a lot. And a lot of people, again, forget that. They go from the surplus to the extreme deficit. They forget about, like, solidifying those gains that they've made. And just going to diet right off if you don't. So, yeah, and switching gears right before we wrap up, I think on the last podcast there was a comment about creating like a link or, for people to be able to post, I guess, their physiques or maybe even questions, right, we could do. So we heard that. We'll implement that moving forward. I think that'd be cool to have a segment, you know, at least every other podcast or every podcast, depending on how many we get, to where we can kind of speak and make sure that people feel heard. I think that's always like my goal, is to reach as many people as possible. And sometimes people, you wouldn't believe how many messages I get sometimes that I guess when I'm bored or have extra time, I'll go through them. And I usually just voice note something back, typically, just because I don't feel like typing and my thumbs, I don't know, whatever. And people are just like, oh, I didn't think you were going to respond. It's always like, I doubt you'll ever see this, but, and I'm sure maybe you get that too. So
all the time.
Yeah, I try to use this platform, right, to at least make people feel like you matter, because I think everyone does matter. And without the supporters and the fans, I wouldn't continue to spend my time creating podcasts, right?
For sure. You guys are the reason why we do this. But no, I just thought of the easy solution. I think we could just have people email. We could do like a list of like age, stats, like lifting experience, you know, some bullshit, and they could send in photos to the email. Okay. Because I don't know where you add a link. Like, just like a website.
Yeah, we'll talk about to Grant or
someone. Think
if you have ideas when you hear this podcast, you can put it in the comments, and then I will personally reach out to you to figure out exactly how to incorporate it. But aside from that, we will wrap things up here. We were at the.
It might be a little short of an hour, but it's close to an hour.
It's pretty close. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you supporting. Please continue to support us. We're also on Spotify for those of you that don't know, but you can definitely find us there. And then we also have the shorts that you've been working on, right? Putting
bro.
out.
Shorts
There's
are
also a
doing good.
TikTok now.
Yeah.
Iron Bros Podcast TikTok. So I appreciate the support that you guys show on all of the platforms. And if you have any questions or concerns, just let us know. And moving forward, we have this drop will already be live, but to show us further support, you can use code SIR and code ANT and code GRANT with any future Young LA purchases.
Look at that, man. This is awesome. I actually had a great time. Thanks, Kyle. Signing out here, the Iron Bros Podcast. Toodaloo.
Thanks, Anthony. Goodbye.